Hi everyone, welcome to another Data Analytica video. Have you ever wondered why some Python data operations run instantly while others seem to wait until the very end before doing anything? That is the magic of lazy versus eager execution, and it can completely change how your data pipelines perform. So in today's video, we will break down the difference between eager and lazy execution or evaluation using two powerful data engines, Polars and Spark. And you'll see how each handles computations, what query plans really mean, and why lazy execution can make your code faster and smarter. So let's start. So here I am again on Databricks free edition. So let's create a notebook. Lazy versus eager execution. Okay. So before we start, let me just give some basic description of what each of this execution means. So we have eager execution, which is actually that computations run immediately when called. And then you have lazy execution. So in this, computations are only planned when written and executed later in an optimized way. So let's see how these are being done in the popular libraries. And as you may know, Pandas follow eager execution. Okay, I think I'm the operator off. Yes. And then we have Polars. Polars is another library which supports both eager and lazy approach. And then we have Spark, which is lazy by default. Okay, so today we'll be seeing in this notebook, we'll go through, because Polar supports both, we'll see like how eager versus lazy works in Polar. Then we have we can compare it with Spark DataFrame execution. And then a small summary. Okay, so these are the things we will see in this notebook. And before we start, we need to install the required Polars. So pip install Polars, and I'm actually running this cell. And we'll wait for it to install. Okay, so successfully installed. And the next thing that we need to do is because we are going to use Polars and Spark in this one, so I'm going to import Polars as PL and PL, and then for Spark we need to get the Spark session from PySpark.sql. We get Spark session, and the next thing we need to do is initialize Spark, and so Spark equal to Spark session dot builder dot app name. Let me give a name called lazy versus eager, and then get or create. Okay, let me run this. Okay, so yes, I think I used a capital P. Okay, so it ran without any errors now. And the next thing that we're going to do is for this demo purpose, we're actually going to get a new data set, sample data set. Okay, so we're going to create a sample data set, data equal to a list, and here we have ID 1, and then the next field category A, and then value going to be 10. Okay, so let me copy this and create few more rows. So we have nearly 5 rows, and I'll just change this values so that we don't have duplicate IDs. Okay, so here we are with our data set, and we can create a Polar df, which is actually pl_df, pl.DataFrame of data, and then another Spark df. So Spark df is going to be spark.create data frame, okay, of data, and let's see, print Polars data frame, print of PLDF, and the next thing we're going to see is Spark data frame and Spark df.show. Okay, so let me run this cell. pl.DataFrame, okay, case sensitive. Yeah, okay, so here we are. We have received, we can see that we have now Polars data frame with ID, category, and value, and the same for Spark data frame with category, ID, and value. So the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to see how eager execution in Polars is done. So we have already seen that actually, like with eager mode or with eager evaluation, computations happen immediately. Okay, so here we are, we'll see eager execution. in Polars, and we're going to create a new data frame which will actually filter when pl.call of value is going to be greater than 20. Okay, and then we will select ID and category. Okay, so now let's see the print result eager. Super. So what we did, we actually filtered two columns, ID and category, and then we filtered based on value column where the value is going greater than 20. So we have like 3, 4, 5 rows, because yes, you can see that 3, 4, 5 with those IDs having more than 20 values. So yeah, and here we have the right result. So this is how it's being done in eager execution. So the same thing we're going to see in lazy execution, and let's see what is the difference. So lazy execution in Polars, and like we know that lazy mode is actually, it has a query plan, builds a query plan, like it creates an order in which the queries are being executed, and nothing is computed until collect is called. Okay, so here we are with lazy execution in Polar. So lazy query is going to be PL df. So when it comes to lazy, there is a small difference. We need to include this lazy and then filter. The other things are going to be pl.call where value is greater than 20. Okay, dot select, we'll select ID and category, so like before. Okay, and the next thing that we're going to see is, so that's actually the query that we give. And now let's see how the query plan is being done for. So query plan is usually optimized before running a query. Okay, so we can actually see how its query plan is by a lazy query dot explain. So this actually explains its query plan, and then we can have now execute. So while executing, result lazy is going to be lazy query dot collect. So like I mentioned, nothing is computed until collect is called. So we call like lazy query dot collect, and then we will print that result lazy. Okay, so let's run and see how this query plan is being created in lazy mode and how it's being executed. Okay, so lazy execution in Polars, and here is the query plan which is optimized before running. So we have like, okay, we need to have a select where we select the ID and category, and then we filter where the column value is greater than 20 from the data frame with all these values. Okay, so out of the 3 columns. And when executing, so here we get the same result, but we have a query plan which is optimized before running, which was not the case with eager. So that's actually the difference you can see with the lazy and eager. Whereas in lazy, even because this is a query that is not so complex, but if we have a complex with a lot of conditions in, then there is a query plan which is actually being created, which will optimize the running. So, and we can see that lazy query plan with using explain here, and then after that, when we use the collect function, it's being executed and the result is being shown. Okay, so the next thing that we are going to see is lazy execution in Spark, because we know that it's lazy by default. So we actually usually, whenever we give a query, transformations are built as DAG. So DAG is a familiar name when it comes to the pipeline thing. So whereas actually this directed acyclic graph. So there is a graph, there is actually a plan made, and execution happens on actions like show. So this is one of them, count, collect. So we know that we have already used show, count, or collect in our previous videos you might have seen for Spark and for the PySpark, and so that's how it's being that execution happens. So until then, nothing actually gets done. Okay, so here we're going to show lazy execution in Spark, and there's a Spark query made, and here we have spark df dot filter, and we will actually spark df dot value is greater than 20, and then we will use the select to select those two columns, ID and category. Okay, and then here let's see how the transformation is defined. But not executed yet, so it has a plan. So which we get using Spark query dot explain. Okay, and then we can actually print now execution. And then Spark query dot show. Okay, so here we are, and in Spark, lazy execution in Spark, so we have but not executed yet, and then because there is this so physical plan is there is this local table scan with ID and category. Okay, so this is just a message and not an error. So Fortran doesn't fill it, is okay. And reference code, and then we can see that it will actually give for the now execution and the result. Okay, so it returns the ID and category with the right result. So this is how actually this is actually what it's being done, like when there is a lazy execution in Spark, and whether it's eager or lazy in Polars. So you can see the difference. So usually, so maybe I can create a small description. So here the text. So let's say eager execution, okay, under eager execution, let's say there are actually 3 operations for, first one is to read, operation 2 is filter, operation 3 is aggregate. So each operation for the eager execution runs immediately. So producing intermediate results. So for eager execution, everything is going to be immediate, like in Pandas or the eager execution in Polars. And when it comes to lazy execution plan, so there is always a plan and which actually gets optimized, and then only execute. So there is this read which happens first, and then filter, and then project is like selecting the required columns, and then aggregate. So transformation, so okay, so transformations usually are recorded into a plan or DAG. So optimizer, so there is this optimizer rewrites the plan before execution. So that it's optimized. Okay, so here we are. We actually, like, this is just a gist of it. So in eager execution, everything happens immediately. So even if you have different operations that needs to be done in, maybe like there is an order, but still every operation runs immediately, producing intermediate results. And then we have lazy execution, where if there is actually a plan made in a DAG format, and then it's also optimized before execution. So this is like really when it comes to performance consideration. So I would say lazy execution when it comes to scalability, maybe advantages, scalability and optimizations, because you can see that like it's always being optimized before running it. So there's always an advantage when the pipeline is huge, or like when there is a big production scale pipelines. Whereas eager execution is, I would say, mostly for simplicity, because there is no such plan involved, and then when there is a debugging case, and it's very helpful. Okay. And then we have one more thing as a best practice, I would say. Use eager when you need to explore data or debug. but lazy always better Polars or Spark when for production scale pipelines. So that's why actually Polars or Spark is getting more popularity for like high production scale pipelines these days because of its lazy execution approach, where it's more the scalability and optimization is kind of like an advantage. So yeah, I think that's it for this session, this video, because we have seen that the two execution, how it's being done, how it has a plan, and what are the advantages when it comes to lazy or eager, and usually like where or like in which cases eager or lazy is preferred. So that's it. Please let me know your feedback and comments, and thanks for watching. See you next video.